Jane Goodall. Written by Karen Moakler. The Watcher. Jane Goodall was born in England in 1934. As a child, she liked to learn about animals and watch how they behaved. Jane loved to read colorful stories about wild animals that lived in Africa. She even dreamed about living there. Jane was sure that, one day, she wanted to work with animals and write stories about them. Off to Africa. At age 18, Jane graduated from high school and became a secretary. She wondered how being a secretary would get her to Africa, but she kept working. By 1957, Jane had saved enough money to take a trip to Kenya in eastern Africa. Within months, she met a famous scientist named Dr. Louis Leakey. Dr. Leakey was studying how apes and humans were alike and different. At the time, Dr. Leakey needed a new assistant. Even though Jane had no scientific training, he hired her for the job. She learned fast and loved the work. One day, Leakey talked about starting a special field study of chimpanzees. In a field study, scientists live near the animal they want to learn about. For this special study, Dr. Leakey needed someone who was patient and curious. The person would have to feel comfortable living in the forest among the chimps. He asked Jane. For young Jane Goodall, it was a dream come true. Into the forest. Goodall was 26 years old in 1960. That year, she went to the Gombe Forest in Tanzania, Africa, where the chimpanzees lived. At Gombe, Jane sat quietly on a hill, watching the chimpanzees all day, every day, even in the rain. Goodall took organized notes. She noticed that the chimps always stayed in family groups. So she gave each chimp in each family group a name that began with the same letter of the alphabet. The Gombe Gang. For a long time, the chimps were afraid of her. Then a curious older chimp that Goodall had named David Graybeard came to her camp in search of food. She hid a banana under her shirt and let him find it. As his trust in her grew, he led Jane into the forest to meet his family. The chimp family let her sit and watch them on a daily basis. Her reports about her early observations of the family group upset many long-held scientific beliefs about chimps. The woman who named things. Some scientists doubted Goodall's findings. They didn't believe that chimps had feelings or intelligence. They certainly didn't think a serious scientist should give personal names to the animal she studied. At the time, people believed that chimps ate only plants. Goodall saw David Graybeard's family eat meat. Later, she saw him poke a stick into a termite mound. He pulled it out and ate a termite snack. Goodall realized two things. David had used a tool to get food. What's more, he had first stripped the leaves off the stick so it would fit in the small hole. So he had also made a tool. Her shocking report caused scientific debate. It also won her important support and funding. Thanks to David Graybeard, the other chimps also came to trust Goodall. She was able to watch complete life cycles, from birth to death. She saw and reported behavior that no researcher had ever observed before. Goodall stated that each chimp had its own personality, just like humans. She found that chimps showed a whole range of emotions. They were happy, sad, angry, loving, and jealous. She saw them hold hands, laugh, and throw tantrums. Over many years, Goodall's discoveries and reports gave the world new ideas about chimpanzees. Her work made many scientists reconsider what makes humans different from other animals. Trouble in the forest. In time, Goodall began to see a dark future for her Gombe chimpanzees. The chimps' home forests were being cut down. The chimps were being hunted for food. Hunters were also shooting mother chimps and stealing their babies. The babies were then sold to zoos and circuses and even as pets. Most grown-up chimps don't make good house pets. Many former pets were being sold to labs for research experiments. Goodall realized that if these practices continued, the Gombe chimpanzees were in danger of dying out completely. She decided that she would have to leave Gombe and her chimps in order to save them. Goodall began to travel the world. She talked with important groups about her work. She asked for help to save both the chimps and the forests they need in order to survive. Jane Goodall today. Young Jane Goodall once left behind everything she knew to live among and learn about another species. More than 50 years have passed since she first went to the Gombe forest. She still works hard to preserve it and the chimps that live there. When she can, she returns home to Gombe. She walks into the forest, sits down quietly, and smiles as she watches the chimpanzees. Jane Goodall programs. In 1977, Jane Goodall began the Jane Goodall Institute. The Jane Goodall Institute gives money to scientists who study chimps in the wild. It also teaches people living near wild places how to help protect the wildlife in their area. In 1991, Goodall began the Roots and Shoots program. The Roots and Shoots program began in Tanzania with just 12 local teens. Today, it operates in more than 120 countries and has thousands of members. The main goal of Roots and Shoots is to educate young people about problems that exist right around them. To learn more, go to www.rootsandshoots.org and www.janegoodall.org.